What's up guys, Meredith with ExtremeTerrain.com, and today we are checking out the DV8 Off-Road MTO Series rear bumper fitting all 2022 and newer Toyota Tundras. Now if you want some extra toughness for the back of your truck, but you want a rear bumper that's going to blend into your build with a sleeker construction than some of the other bulkier options, and is not going to require you to cut or make any modifications, this is going to be right up your alley. Now bolting right into the middle of your rear bumper, this MTO option will offer strength and function needed for off-road treks, but will also have a sharp aesthetic if you're sticking to the street and just want some of that heavy-duty styling to turn some heads. I do also want to note right up front that this bumper is not going to be compatible with the factory extended bed steps, so just keep that in mind when you're picking this up. Now while this is compact, it is going to have a lot of useful qualities for the avid or occasional off-roader. Not only will this be tough for impact protection, but it's going to be useful in recovery scenarios if need be, with two welded shackle mounts on either side, with the ability to accept up to 3/4 inch shackles. It will also include auxiliary light mounting options if you need additional lighting when backing up, or to use them as a work light for towing at night or while you're on the campsite. Now the pure design of the bumper with the sharp edges and the body lines, in addition to the customizable aluminum mesh panels, will also bring a lot of that tough feel to the table and allow you to customize the look, and again, elevate the truck's appearance if you're not going on the dirt. Again, this is sturdy with a 3.5mm steel build with what DV8 calls a micro-textured black powder coat on top, offering a sleek appearance, but the toughness of the powder coat will protect the steel underneath from rusting. Now the bumper will also come with optional grip tape that you have the choice of installing on the bumper for some additional traction if you are using this to pop up into the bed. The build will also retain all of the factory features like the sensors, license plate lights, reverse lights, and will even be compatible with the blind spot monitoring, as well as have a cutout for the hitch, so you're not going to have to worry about losing any of those features when upgrading to this option. Now best part of all is that, again, it's not going to require any modifications to your Tundra and will be completely bolt on. Now this will be roughly $900 and will be one of the more affordable choices in the category. Now looking at all of the other options, this is going to be very inclusive with its features, but it's also going to be straightforward with everything you need without going over the top if you do want to keep it on the lower end of the spectrum as far as the price or just the build design is concerned, while also maintaining good build quality. And I think if you're looking for that sleek look and a very functional build, no matter if you're using the features of this rear bumper every day or once in a while, or even not at all, then this is going to be a great choice for your Tundra. Install will be a 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter. I would recommend some mechanical experience, and it should take you about 4 hours or so to get the job done. Now at this point, we can head over to our shop and check out a detailed breakdown on how to get this onto your truck at home step by step. So that's going to wrap it up for my review. Let's go ahead and get into the install.
The tools you'll need for this project are a 1/2 inch and a 3/8 impact gun, a 3/8 ratchet, a 1/4 inch ratchet, a 1/2 inch drive ratchet, an 8, a 10, and a 12mm socket, a 4mm Allen wrench, a 16mm socket, a 21mm socket, two 22mm sockets, a 16mm wrench, two 21mm wrenches, a pair of side cutters, a couple of panel trim removal tools, small flathead screwdriver, a utility knife or razor blade, and you'll also need to source some zip ties, some heavy-duty double-sided tape, some painter's tape, and a Sharpie. Hi everyone, today we're installing a rear bumper on our Tundra, so let's get started with the uninstall of the stock bumper first. First thing we're going to do is disconnect the negative battery cable. The reason for this is due to the fact that sometimes on these newer vehicles, when you are disconnecting and connecting electrical connections, the system does get a little confused. So in order to try and avoid some of that situation, we're going to go ahead and just disconnect the negative battery cable. So to disconnect our negative cable, we're going to be using our 10mm socket. Loosen up the nut. And then just lift it straight up and get it out of the way. Next thing we're going to do is disconnect our trailer wiring harness, and it's up here behind the bumper next to the spare tire. Now, obviously you can do this on the ground. We've only got ours up on a lift to give you a better view of exactly where we're working and what we're doing. So if you're on the ground, like I said, you can do this, no problems. We're just going to be able to show you a better picture with having it up on the lift. So we'll push down on the release tab and then pull it straight out. Now, next thing we're going to do is we've got 3 electrical connectors up here on the passenger side, just below and above the spare tire. So we'll disconnect those next and get those out of the way. Now, it may be a little difficult to see because they are tucked up in there, but we'll do our best to show you exactly where we're at. So we're just going to push in on the release lever on the connector and pull it straight out. Now we've got 3 push pins on the bottom of the fenders here on the driver's side. We're going to use a small flathead screwdriver to pop those out, and then we'll do the same thing on the passenger side. So once you release the center section, then you can stick the screwdriver underneath and pull out the larger section. And now you can do the same thing for the passenger side. Now, moving to the passenger side here, we've got 2 bolts that we need to remove from this bottom bumper trim here. Now you'll notice that there are 4 bolts here at the bottom. We're only going to be dealing with the 2 black ones that attach the actual bumper trim to the bumper. So we're going to use our 10mm socket and remove those 2 bolts. Now, using a soft trim panel removal tool, what we're going to do is separate this trim panel here from this black piece that goes on the bumper. So we're just going to insert this in between the 2 and pry them apart like so. Now you do want to be kind of gentle with this because it is only held in by plastic clips. So we'll go ahead and get this separated. And then once you've got it separated, then we've got a module right here and our sensor wire here that need to be unplugged. All right, now that we've got it separated, you'll see that this module here and the parking sensor harness need to be disconnected. Now it's a little difficult to see once I get my hands in there, but what you're gonna do is press down on this release lever here on this module and pull the connector down. And then on the parking sensor, you're going to also push in on the release lever and pull it towards the front of the vehicle to separate it from the sensor. So we'll go ahead and push in on this release lever here, pull it down, and then on the parking sensor, do the same thing. And now you can repeat that process for the other side. All right, now that we've got our harness unplugged, now we need to go ahead and remove the retaining clips that hold them into place so that we can get ready to remove our bumper. So we're gonna have one right here underneath this trim panel here, and then there's another one on the inside of the fender here. So we'll use our trim panel removal tool. Once we get underneath it, go ahead and just pry it out. And now we'll get the one on the inside. We'll do the same thing with this one, just get underneath it, pry it away, and then pull the wiring harness through. And now you can repeat that process for the other side. Now at this point, we're actually ready to remove our bumper. So we've got 3 bolts on each side that we need to remove so that we can pull this thing out. Now you're going to need either a couple of 22 millimeter sockets or a couple of 22 millimeter wrenches or a combination of both. So we'll go ahead and we'll actually remove the 2 bolts on one side, 2 bolts on the other side, and then we'll remove the nut on the 3rd one. And at that point, we'll go ahead and get a buddy because the bumper is kind of heavy. So we'll get somebody else to help us lift it off, and then we'll remove that final bolt. And now you can repeat that process for the other side. All right, now that we've got 4 of our 6 bolts removed, we left the last 2 in there until I can get a buddy, which I do have now. So now we can go ahead and slide that last bolt out and pull our bumper straight out. All right, now that we've got our bumper off, we need to start transferring some stuff off of this bumper so we can put it on the new bumper. So the first thing we're going to do is remove our wiring harness. And these are side specific. So we have our parking sensors on our passenger side and our driver's side. So we need to make sure that those go back in on the correct side. So we're just going to use a piece of tape and mark our harness with passenger and driver side. So we'll just take a piece of tape, slide it under one side of the vehicle wiring harness, and then we'll just use a Sharpie and mark it with a D on one side. And I like to do it on the other side just in case something happens to the tape on one side. So we'll go ahead and slide this around here. And we'll just mark this with a P. So we know that's the passenger side. Now once we've got that done, we can go ahead and remove the nut that holds our proximity sensor on the back of the bumper using our 10 millimeter socket. Just lift that straight up. All right, now we're going to remove our parking sensor harness right here by pushing down on the release clip with our trim removal tool. And you want to support this so that it doesn't break. And then push down on the release clip. And pull it out. And now you can repeat that process for the other sensor. Now we'll use our trim removal tool to remove all of these retaining clips for our wiring harness on the back of the bumper. So we'll just slip it underneath each of the clips, pry it up, and remove all of the clips. Now we'll unplug our license plate light while we're here and finish removing our retaining clips. Unplug our light. Next thing we're going to do is remove our trailer plug. And to do that, what we're going to do is push in on the spring clip on the back side, and then it will allow it to fall out from the front of the bumper. So here's our spring clip here. Just push in towards the plug itself. It'll start to fall out. And then we can go ahead and push the other one and go ahead and remove it. Now we can remove our step pad covers. We've got two right here in front of the license plate, and then the two on top of the bumper itself. To remove these, you're going to need a trim panel removal tool, and you're also going to need a little bit of patience and a little bit of extra strength because they are very tight in here. So now we'll go ahead and use our trim removal tool, slide it underneath the edge of the two pads here and the two on the sides, and then we'll go ahead and pop these up. Now we can slide our trim removal tool underneath the edge of the pad and start prying it up. Now these are in there kind of tight, so you may have to work them to get them off. So that'll take care of that one. Now starting from the inside edge here, go ahead and slide this under and start prying it up. And now you can do the same thing for the other side. All right, next thing we're going to do is remove our license plate. Now we're going to be using a 10mm socket to go ahead and remove these screws. You may have a different setup on yours, but we'll just go ahead and take our license plate off. All right, now we're going to flip our bumper almost upside down so that we can access the bottom of the bumper here and remove these 4 push pins along the bottom and then these 2 10mm bolts on either end of this bottom clip. So we'll go ahead and use our flathead screwdriver to remove these push clips. So just insert it under the ledge and then pop it up. Now we use our 10mm socket to remove the 2 bolts on either end of this lower trim. Now we'll use our trim removal tool and slide it under the upper edge of this lower trim piece here and pop this off. Now we can go ahead and remove the rest of the push pins at the top of the bumper. And now you can repeat that process for the other side. And now we'll finally remove the last one right here in the middle behind the license plate. All right, now we can go ahead and lift our main trim piece here off of the bumper. You may need to use your trim panel removal tool to help pry it up. And get that out of the way. Now we'll go ahead and remove the other 2 trim pieces. Now using our 8mm socket, we'll go ahead and remove the 2 bolts that hold in our license plate lights. Now we just grab a hold of our light and slide it out. And you can repeat that process for the other side. Now we can remove the 10 bolts that are on the top of the bumper here. We've got 4 on each side here, and then the 2 in the middle right next to the license plate. So we use our 12mm socket to remove those bolts. Now we'll do the same thing on the other side. Now we'll do the 2 in the middle. Now we'll lift off our final trim piece. All right, now we're going to go ahead and remove our 2 parking sensors from our bumper trim here so that we can transfer them over to our new bumper. Now you do need to be careful when you remove these to make sure that they stay on this correct side. So we're going to be using some painter's tape and a Sharpie to mark them when we take them out. So we're going to use a small flathead screwdriver to get in there between the sensor and the colored tab and pry that tab away. That way we can lift the sensor out. We'll insert our flathead screwdriver between the sensor and the locking tab, pry it away, and do the same thing on the other side. Now once we've got it out, we'll go ahead and use our tape, put it over the back side, and then mark it for the side of the vehicle that it's on. So in this case, this is for the driver's side. And now we'll do the same thing for the passenger side. Now with our sensors out of the way, we can go ahead and remove our bezels. Now these are only held on by double-sided tape, so they're relatively easy to get off. It just takes a little bit of work. So we're going to be using our small flathead screwdriver to get under the edge of the backside of the bezel itself and basically break the tape loose. Now you will need to be a little bit careful on this as it is thin plastic that we're dealing with here, so we don't want to break it. So let's go ahead and stick our screwdriver underneath and start breaking this loose. Now, once you've got the bezel removed, you can go ahead and use like a utility knife or razor blade to go ahead and scrape off the rest of the tape that's left on here, and then use some sort of adhesive remover to go ahead and clean it all up. And then do the same thing for the other side. All right, now we're ready to install our new bumper. First thing we're going to do is install our trailer plug. And that's just going to snap into place right here on the front of the bumper. And it has, you'll notice that it's notched for the round edge and the square edge. So you can't mess this up when you put it in. And all it's going to do is snap into place. So we'll go ahead and slide this in, press it in until it snaps in, make sure that it's tight. All right, now we can install our license plate lights. And these are going to install a little bit differently than what they came off of. So these are going to go in from the back, but the bolts and screws are going to go in from the front. So we've got two holes right here that match up with our lights. Make sure you got the ones for the correct side. And then we can go ahead and get our lights installed. We'll go ahead and install our screws from the front. And then what I like to do is put a little piece of tape on them just to hold them in place while we're working on the back side. Now we'll set our lights over the screws. And we'll install a flat washer and the supplied nut. Now we're going to go ahead and use our 4mm Allen wrench and our 10mm socket to tighten those up. And now you can repeat that process for the other light. All right, now we're ready to install our parking sensors. So the first thing we're going to have to do is remove the plugs that come with the bumper, get those out of the way so that we've got room to install our sensors. Now you also want to note, after you've got them cleaned up for the bezels, you'll notice that one side is wider than the other. So the wider side is going to go towards the top of the hole opening. And we're going to put some double-sided tape on these green edges right here, and that's what's going to hold the bezel in place to the back side of the bumper. So let's go ahead and get that done. All right, to remove this plug, all you're going to do is grab a hold of the edge and lift it up. Now you can do the same thing for the other side. So you're going to need to source some double-sided tape. And then we'll just unroll it a little bit, lay it over our bezel, and then cut it with a utility knife or razor blade. Do the same thing for the other side. Make sure that it adheres. Peel off the backing. Now we can go ahead and insert this from the back side, again making sure that the wider side is pointing up. Insert this from the back side. So we'll press down on the tabs on the outside of the bezel, make sure it sticks good. Then we can take our sensor that we've marked so that we know which side it goes on. Go ahead and put that into place. And press it down until it locks. And now you can repeat that process for the other side. All right, now we're ready to lay our wiring harness in place. So we're just going to lay it in place right now, making sure our proximity sensor is somewhat centered in the middle of the bumper. Lay the rest of them out. And also, you want to make sure that the 3 harnesses are on the passenger side, and we'll go ahead and lay them out. Now we can go ahead and connect our lights and our parking sensors. So we'll go ahead and plug in our license plate connector here, make sure that it locks into place. Then we'll go ahead and connect our parking sensor. Plug that in until it snaps, and then repeat that process for the other side. So now we're ready to install our license plate. And the kit does come with some supplied bolts with washers and nuts as well. So we're going to feed this through from the front side that you would normally look at, through the license plate and through the hole in the bumper. Now, once you've got one of them through, we'll go ahead and put on a washer on the back side and start one of the nuts to hold that in place. Now we'll go ahead and insert one of the other nuts in the top corner of the license plate here, and then take our proximity sensor, put that over the bolt, put it on the washer, and start a nut. Now we can go ahead and put the other 2 bolts on the lower 2 holes of the license plate. We'll do the same thing, put on our washer and our nut, and do our last bolt on the other corner. Put on our washer, get our nut started, and now we can tighten them all down using our 4mm Allen bit and our 10mm socket. We'll tighten down the other 3 as well. Now we're ready to install our hitch mount brackets. And you'll notice that they are designed so that there is a flat angle that goes towards the inside of the bumper. That's where the hitch is actually going to mount to. These other 3 holes here are what's going to mount to the bumper itself. Now, when you put these in, they are side specific, so you need to make sure that the angle of this bracket here goes towards the outside of the bumper. And then this bracket here is towards the top as you're looking at it. Now when you install these, you're going to install it with using the M14 bolts that are provided in the kit, along with flat washers and lock washers, and a flat washer and a nut on the other side. So we're only going to install 2 at this time until we get the hitch actually installed. So we're going to install the bottom one here and the outer upper one. We're going to save this inner upper one until we get the hitch installed. So a bolt with a lock washer and flat washer. And we'll put a flat washer on the other side. And then loosely attach our nut. Now we'll do the one for the bottom. Same way. And now you can repeat that process for the other bracket. Now we're ready to install our hitch. But before we do that, there's a couple of plastic brackets on the bottom that need to be removed. To do that, we're going to be using our trim panel removal tool and pop those off. So we'll put our trim removal tool underneath it and just pry it off. Now you can do the same thing for the passenger side. Now, if you've got an extra pair of hands to help you lift this up in there, that would be great because this hitch is rather heavy. If you don't, you can put it in on your own. And you want to make sure that these brackets, these outer brackets on the hitch themselves, go inside the brackets that we just mounted on the bumper. So we'll go ahead and lift this up and set it down in place. Now we can go ahead and install our third M14 bolt into the bracket that mounts to the bumper. So we'll slide that in, again with our lock washer and flat washer. Put a flat washer on the other side. And finally our nut. And now you can do the same thing for the passenger side. All right, now we can go ahead and secure our hitch to our bumper brackets. And the kit comes with these M10 bolts with lock washers and flat washers as well. Now on the driver's side, there is a welded nut on the inside of the hitch bracket. On the passenger side, you will be using a nut and a bolt to be able to secure that. We'll line up our holes on the driver's side with the nut. Get our bolt started, and then do the same thing for the lower hole here. The upper hole is going to be used for our bolts that go through to the frame. Now let's move over to the passenger side. Now we'll install our bolt with the lock washer and flat washer attached, and then put a flat washer and the nut on the other side. And we'll do the same thing for the lower hole. Now at this point, we're just about ready to put this back on the truck. But if you are installing pod lights in the back of your bumper, now is the time to go ahead and get those installed. And there are a couple of welded brackets on the back of the bumper here that you can mount those lights. Next thing we're going to do though is go ahead and use some zip ties that go ahead and secure our wiring harness to the back of the bumper to keep it out of the way. So all you're going to have to do is just source some zip ties, and then there are some brackets and other spots on the back of the bumper that you can go ahead and attach these to. So we'll go ahead and do that now. Now this is one of the brackets that I was talking about that is welded onto the back of the bumper, and it's got some slots in here that you can use to attach your zip ties to. So we're just going to fold this wiring harness over, slide our zip tie through, and go ahead and secure our harness. Now you can use as many or as few zip ties as you feel necessary. There is no specific number that you need to focus on. just make sure that everything is secure and out of the way. Now, once you've got it secured, go ahead and use a pair of side cutters and just cut off the excess. All right, now the kit also comes with these anti-slip pads that you can attach to the top of the bumper here. To do that, all you're gonna do is just peel the backing off. We'll just peel away some of the backing here, and then go ahead and just fold this back to keep it out of the way. And then go ahead and line it up on the top of the bumper where you want it to be placed. Press it down, and then just start rolling it back as you press down on the pad. Now you can repeat that process for the other side. Now we're actually ready to install our bumper. And because of the fact that this is so heavy, you are going to need an extra pair of hands to help lift this up into place. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and lift this, put it back on the frame rails where it belongs, and then we'll insert the bolts to hold it in place. All right, now it's a little difficult to see right now, but you go ahead and slide one of these bolts in just to make sure that it holds it in place, and then we can work on getting the rest of them installed. Nut. Now we'll put a nut on there just to make sure that it's secure. All right, now that we've got one bolt in there to at least hold it in place, we can go ahead and start installing the rest of the bolts through the frame to hold it in place. Now we go ahead and add our nuts just to hold the bolts in place. And now you can repeat that process for the other side. All right, now it's a little dark up behind the bumper here, but we're gonna go ahead and reconnect our trailer plug. So we're just gonna push that up into place, align up the tabs, and push it in and lock it into place. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and reconnect our 3 connectors above the spare tire. So we'll just plug those in and make sure that it snaps into place. All right, now we're going to go ahead and connect our blind spot monitor and our parking sensor for the passenger side. So we're going to feed this back up through the bottom of the fender here and then plug them in behind this panel. We got our wires fed through. Then we just plug in our connectors until they lock. And now you can repeat that process on the other side. Now that we've got everything plugged in at the back of the truck, we can go ahead and reconnect our negative cable on the battery. Once we've got the negative battery cable reconnected, then we can go ahead and lower our tailgate just to make sure that there's plenty of clearance between the tailgate and the bumper. And we'll tighten it down with our 10mm socket. Now with our battery reconnected, we can go ahead and open up our tailgate slowly and check for clearance. When it's opened all the way up, make sure that there's no interference with our new bumper. So now we've got it completely open and determined that there's no interference, so we're good to go. Now one last thing before we start tightening everything up, we want to check the alignment between the bottom of the bumper and the bottom of the trim panel. So as long as the bumper is even or slightly below the trim panel, we're good to go. So we'll go ahead and just close this up. Check our alignment. It is slightly below the trim panel, so there's no adjustments that we need to make. So we can go ahead and start buttoning this thing up. So we'll go ahead and push this in, get everything locked into place. Now we'll do the same thing for the other side. Now we can go ahead and install our original push pins that we took out along the bottom of our trim panel here on the back. Now we can put our two 10mm screws in the edge of our trim panel here, right behind the rear tire. And tighten it down with our 10mm socket. And now you can repeat that process for the other side. Now it's a little difficult to see, but these 3 bolts that are pointing down here, they're black just like the bumper itself, so it's a little tough to see, but we'll tighten those up using our 21mm wrench and our 21mm socket. Now because of this other bracket that's on this brace right here, we're going to have to use 2 21mm wrenches to tighten up this 3rd bolt. Now we've got 2 bolts on the driver's side here that connect our bumper bracket to our hitch. And it's a little hard to see right now because everything is black and it is dark up here. But we're going to go ahead and tighten these 2 bolts down with our 16mm socket. All right, now we're going to go ahead and tighten up the 3 bolts here, here, and here that hold our hitch to our frame rails. And we're using a couple of 22mm sockets to do that. And now you can repeat that whole process for the passenger side.
So that's going to wrap it up for my review and the install of the Deviate Off-Road MTO Series rear bumper fitting all 2022 and newer Toyota Tundras. And you can find this right here at extremeterrain.com.